Why does making friends as an adult feel so
What
hard?
should I wear on a first
What the
date?
hell is a formal?
But that
Why
hookup
is
was
buying my
not
first
good.
home
So
What do I want my
frustrating.
life to look like in 5 years?
We want to know too.
Since 2012, the Everygirl has been an online destination to help women around the world achieve the life of their dreams. Now, we're excited to bring you the same inspiring content with the Everygirl podcast.
Welcome back to the Everygirl podcast. Happy Thursday. I got a really great question about waiting on a proposal that I'm going to dive into today. And I also got some questions when I polled you guys on Instagram for Ask the Everygirl topics and requests about some updates on my wedding planning. So I'm going to make this more of a themed episode, and we'll get to the updates on my wedding and advice for new brides. So stay tuned for that later in the episode. This week's Ask the Everygirl question is, I don't want to unintentionally ruin the surprise of the proposal. How do I let go of control knowing my boyfriend wants to propose to me this year? I understand this feeling well. As a self-identified control freak, I get this, especially when you envision this milestone for basically your entire life. Maybe, you want it the way you want it, or you want the timeline that you want it in. And it is also such a weird phenomenon. Like I've talked about this. It is this weird thing where, like, obviously, if you are in a heterosexual relationship with a man, you can do the proposing. Honestly, maybe we all should in theory, because we know who typically wears the pants or the dress, because I hate sexist phrases. But if you do want your significant other to propose, it can feel weird to say the least. Like, I am obviously a very outspoken feminist, but then I was waiting on a man to propose to me, and I don't know exactly when I'm entering this next phase of my life because he's in control of that. Like, it is kind of this weird thing. Like, am I really participating in this archaic societal ritual? It is okay to want a man to propose to you. Like, depending on the way that you feel about it and the way that you and your partner look at it, a man proposing to a woman does not have to be so anti-feminist. For me, I did not feel at all like it was my fiance deciding that we were ready or determining my life's timeline. I looked at it like it was him planning a proposal that was special to me, and buying a ring and doing all the stuff was like this beautiful way that he could show his love to me. And it was more like one of his many contributions for our life together and the life that we together want to work toward. I am going to be the one physically producing the children. Maybe in your dynamic, you might feel like you financially contribute more to your life together, or you contribute to tending to your home more, or whatever. So this is just another way, albeit a big way, that this person can show their love for you and contribute to your overall life and happiness and future together that you both mutually decide that you want. So even if you want your partner to do the proposing and you want it to feel like a surprise, we should still feel energetically in complete control of taking that step in our relationship. Like, at the end of the day, I was not waiting for my boyfriend to propose to me and hoping it was coming. We both felt ready to take that step. Yes, he was asking me, but both of us decide it's time for our next step, and I get to say yes or no. So rather than looking at it like my life's timeline is up to him, it's a mindset shift of he's planning a fun surprise for me, but I'm deciding that it's time too. So with all that being said, if you know it's coming and you want it to come, you also want your boyfriend to do the proposing and you want it to be a surprise, but you're still having a hard time feeling out of control, here are some thoughts. Our brains are wired to look for certainty. And that may be a big reason why you're having a hard time, because we are just not wired to accept uncertainty. So just know that this is what your brain is doing. It's telling you that uncertainty is scary, but you have to remind yourself over and over that it isn't. Certainty is actually an illusion. Control is an illusion. You think that overanalyzing, anticipating, or trying to figure it all out will make you feel better, but in reality, attempting to have control and certainty is what gives us anxiety. That is literally the root of anxiety. You can actually lean into the uncertainty, lean into the surprise of it all. You can look at it like having uncertainty is actually a positive thing. It might even be the best part of it. Instead of thinking of it as this like unfortunate part or byproduct of getting engaged, it can actually be the best part. Think of it this way. Remember when you watched your favorite movie for the first time and how every moment was so exciting because you didn't know what was coming next? Like, sure, watching your favorite movie for the thousandth time is comforting and it brings you joy, but it's not quite as exciting as the first time you watched it when you didn't know the plot twists or the ending, you know? Right now, you are getting to watch your favorite movie for the first time. So enjoy not knowing what comes next. My other piece of advice for you is to detach from this engagement. Like, not in a sense where you need to be indifferent to it or like not excited about it, but in the sense of releasing expectations about how something should unfold. If you detach from the when and how, you are then just attached to the feeling of being surprised and experiencing joy and celebrating your love. Like, what if you just told yourself over and over that getting engaged will be amazing and beautiful and wonderful, regardless of whether or not you interfered, regardless if you knew in advance? Like, you don't want to be so focused on when and how it's going to happen that you're missing the why. So focus instead on the feeling and not the timeline or the circumstances. And then it also may help to detach from it in a way of deprioritizing it almost like you're filling your life with other things so that this upcoming proposal that you know is coming feels like an amazing, fun part of life, but it's not your entire life. So invest more in all facets of your life, your friendships, your career, your hobbies, your well being, your relationship to yourself, your relationship to your boyfriend, separate from a status or ring. Like, invest into your life so that a proposal will feel like a really fun addition to your already very full life, but not something that has such high stakes that you feel the need to control it. Like, my girl, you have already done the hard part of finding someone you want to commit to for your life and who reciprocates those feelings for you. You've already built this incredible life and foundation together. You have done the hard part. Like, for lack of better terminology, sit back and enjoy the ride. I hope that's helpful, but again, I very much relate to this feeling of I want to be out of control because I want it to be a surprise, but I'm having a hard time letting go of the need to control. So I understand what really helped me was focusing on the why, how I wanted to feel, rather than getting really obsessive about the when and the how and all of those other details. The Everygirl podcast is brought to you by Nordstrom. I have really come to believe that fashion is a tool to help us show up as our best selves. It's kind of a manifestation strategy if you think about it. You know the experience of feeling more confident when you're in an outfit you love. So, in partnership with Nordstrom, I really wanted to help you upgrade and curate your wardrobe this spring. And here's the best part, girls, Nordstrom has the best spring styles all under $100, so it won't break the bank to show up as your highest self this season. I'm sure most of you already know and love Nordstrom like I do, but they are truly killing it right now. I'm talking on trend boho blouses, 70s inspired denim, east west bags, sneakers, charm jewelry, and you can shop our favorite brands like Mango, Levi's, Free People. I mean, they even have Skims. If you've procrastinated for your spring break trip like I have, they also have super easy 2-day shipping and next day options to get your items faster. Go check out Nordstrom in stores or online at nordstrom.com, or you can download the Nordstrom app. As I mentioned, I also got a couple requests for Ask the Evergirl about advice for new brides or my planning process. I am so new in the process that I feel like I don't have quite enough to dedicate an entire episode to. So I kind of just wanted to like add it to this episode to, again, make this episode a nice little theme for any bride to bees, current brides, or people that may be entering their bride era sometime soon. So, one listener asks, I would love to hear about your wedding planning experience so far and any advice you have. And then another question, advice for newly engaged girlies who are already stressed about wedding planning. Like I said, we are not super far in our wedding planning process. We've hired wedding planners and we are super excited about them. The most important thing for me as we were looking for wedding planners was the first thing being creativity. Like, I wanted people who really think outside the box and can plan weddings that don't feel super traditional and that they think in terms of like, here's a different way to do this, or here's something that hasn't been done before, rather than having a planner that thinks in like, here's this one checklist and the few options for each couple. You know what I mean? So creativity was a huge priority for us. And then our other most important criteria was the energy. I care so much about this planning process being as enjoyable as it possibly can be. Like, I care more about having fun doing this together than having the most Instagrammable wedding. So we fell in love with their energy. It's these two women that are absolutely incredible. I know not everyone does a wedding planner. I think nowadays most people don't, honestly, and will just do either a day of coordinator or plan it completely by themselves. To which I say, I tip my hat to you because neither my fiance or I are anywhere near organized enough to be able to do that on our own. If you are looking for a planner, something that was another big green flag to us about our planners is that they have a lot of great relationships with vendors in the city we're getting married, but they have made a point to say that they will look all over the world if they need to for the best fit for us. Like, they don't take any commission, they don't have deals with vendors. I've heard from some people who have worked with planners that planners will be like, okay, here's a few options for a photographer, or here's the caterer I typically work with. And I don't know if sometimes they have certain deals with vendors or they get a commission, but our planners were really clear about not taking any cuts from vendors and that they look at each vendor as matching the right fit for our vision instead of just working off of who they know or who they prefer or who they've worked with before. Right now, we are narrowing down venue options. We're going to go to Chicago in May to look at 3 options. I am really hoping that we absolutely fall in love with one of the venues so I can lock it down and get a date secured and everything. The pictures of the venues all look really gorgeous, but obviously I feel like I need to feel the energy in person. So I don't know for sure what I'm going to think when we go see them, but knowing me, I'm also prepared to like these venues we've narrowed down to, but not be in love with any option. And we'll have to go back to the drawing board to try to think of other potential options. I have a very specific vision that is very hard to find. I knew it would be. God bless our planners for being very patient. It's such a curse to have taste and a vision. So, not too much wedding planning to report yet, which I will admit has been kind of stressful. Like, I've seen many people on Instagram or friends who got engaged after I did, and they have their entire wedding planned, or they already have engagement pictures, or they've started talking about their bachelorette. It's so funny when I see that, I have this knee-jerk reaction of like, "Oh no, I am so behind." And I have to really work to remind myself that I don't give a fuck, truly, if our wedding is a while out or if we're not bringing it together as quickly as other people may have. Like, we are on our own timeline, and I continuously have to remind myself of that. Like, it really does not matter to me if we get married in 3 years. Just because other people are bringing it together faster does not mean we are behind. But the advice that I will give is from this very moment until after the last drop of champagne is drank on your wedding, really remember what you are doing this for. People get so caught up in making their weddings as beautiful and aesthetic as possible. And then you get so caught up in like the perfection of it all, making sure your wedding is perfect, that the experience of planning stops being enjoyable. I think, especially with social media, it's skyrocketed. Like, everything from the planning meetings becoming really stressful because the flowers that you wanted to do don't fit in your budget, to you stand around taking pictures for hours on your wedding day in the heat and you're miserable. Or maybe your families are butting in with unwanted opinions, or friends mad because you didn't ask them to be your bridesmaid. Like, weddings can definitely bring out the worst in people, including ourselves. So, Joey and I have talked about this from the start. We also shared this with our wedding planners. The main thing that I care about is that this planning process and the entirety of our engagement from now until the day we get married is its own happy, special time for us. And it's also a celebration of the two of us. Like, that is the point. I would rather have the most enjoyable next year or so and have a wedding day that feels like every moment feels like us and feels so special and feels so present, I would rather that than having the most beautiful aesthetic wedding that will go viral on Instagram. Like, truly. It may be a lot easier said than done. And maybe people deeper into the process are rolling their eyes, being like, sure, Jan, you won't get stressed. Good luck. But I do not want to have 1 minute planning where we feel stressed out. Like, if something doesn't work out or isn't our vision or whatever, like, I'm not doing this for the vision. I'm not doing this for Instagram. I'm not doing it for the photographs that we're going to put in a book for our grandchildren to see, even. I'm doing this as a celebration of Joey and I spending our life together. Or if a friend or family member or whoever is getting annoying about any detail of our wedding, we will do our best to not think twice about it and not let it stress us out because it's not about them. Again, I know that that's going to be a lot easier said than done, and I may have an update in a few months being like, sweet, sweet Josie, what was I thinking? But at this moment, and hopefully for the rest of our engagement, it is our very top number one priority to remember why we're doing this and to not let anything about this process create stress. I think a lot of people don't even think to make that a priority because you go into it being like, yeah, of course, wedding planning is going to be stressful. I don't want to accept that, especially since the only purpose of it is not to affirm our families or impress people we knew in high school and social media. The point of doing this is to celebrate and enjoy each other. So I advise you to keep that in mind every step of the way. Have this conversation with your fiance where you prioritize each other and enjoying the process over every single other possible thing that will come up. But as the wedding planning continues, I will, of course, offer more lessons I learn along the way, as long as you want to keep hearing them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have any advice for this listener feeling out of control or other advice for future brides. Also, if you're a current bride or are already married, please share with me your advice. I need all your advice. And maybe I'll share with the other brides too. Let's help each other out. Share with me in the Spotify comments or Apple reviews what you wish you knew when you were planning a wedding or the number one thing that you learned in the wedding planning process. If you have a question you want us to answer on a future Ask the Everygirl, you can submit it as a voice message or just written in a DM at the Everygirl podcast on Instagram. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Everygirl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.